What's up, everybody, and welcome to Robeytech and another special episode. But this is for you, what can I say, small form factor lovers out there, as we kind of prepare for everything coming up in the 2020 year. So we had a travel PC. It's right here. It's in the Skyreach Mini, and I got off the recommendation based on the guys at Optimum Tech. Huge fan of this case right here, and like I was super impressed with it. But the thing was that I think I was a little overzealous with the kind of parts that I put in here. Now, what is in this PC right now? It's got a Zotac 2070 in it. It's got a 3600X. It's running a Gigabyte RS Pro Wi-Fi motherboard. But the problem was that the power supply for this actually only goes up to 400 watts, and I didn't want to basically have a big external, internal PSU, because I wanted to use the full the full graphics card in this. So I was using the Dell brick, which only goes up to 300 watts. And guess what? Every time I play a game, the PC shuts off. So today we're going to rectify that by taking all of the parts that are in here, basically juicing them with nitro, and then putting them inside this little beauty right here. And I want to give a big shout out to Dan A4 for basically hooking us up with this. This is the Dan A4 SFX V4.1. The V4.1 has a couple of upgrades which are super key. Number one, it actually on the front here, a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 slot. And the other thing too is it includes a PCIe Gen 4 riser, which means it supports PCIe Gen 4 graphics cards. Not that there's any out right now, but thank gosh for Dan, for the folks over at SFX for thinking of that and getting that inside of the case. So the plan today is to basically get all of the parts plus all of these extra parts and get them inside here. Now let's get this out of the way and let's talk about the parts that we have. So first and foremost, for the motherboard, we've got the X570 RS Pro Wi-Fi. This is the gaming motherboard. Big thing for me is that I wanted to make sure that this supported USB-C Gen 2 3.2, both with the front, I'm being able to connect on the front panel and on the back. We actually have that Seagate game drive that we were testing around with this, that with external write speeds of up to 2,000 megabits per second. So we for sure wanted to make sure we could use that when we're basically on the go. So that was why we chose this X570 RS Pro Wi-Fi motherboard. For RAM, we've got the Vengeance LPX. Again, we want low profile RAM in this case. So this is low profile Vengeance LPX RAM. Key thing for this is that we have 64 gigs, 232 sticks of DDR4 3600 megahertz RAM, which is great for running with Ryzen. So that's what we're throwing inside there. We're upgrading to that. For our CPU, right now, inside of this, inside of the Skyreach Mini, we had a 3600X. We're going to upgrade that to a Ryzen 7 3800X. The Ryzen 7 3800X is a 8-core, 16-thread CPU. I was contemplating, and I may still do this. I might still throw a 3900X or a 3950X. I wanted to make sure I check thermals on this first. To give you an idea of what we're going to do with this PC, first and foremost, we're going to be using it to do some on-the-go video editing, and then of course we're going to throw a pretty powerful graphics card in there. So if I wanted to throw it in my backpack, take it in for LAN events, like for instance going to DreamHack or whatever it was, we were basically good to go with that. So that's why I went with a 3800X. Now, like I said, inside of this we have the Zotac 2070. But we're going to be upgrading because the Dan A4 actually allows us to do a full graphics card. So we're going to be putting the GeForce RTX 2080 Super. This is the Founders Edition from NVIDIA. Absolutely stunning card. Fits nicely inside of the Dan A4 SFX V4.1. So we're going to be putting that in there. This should be a lot of fun. Should be a great card to basically get all lined up, which will be awesome. I'm excited. Now, we talked about my power problem. Again, this is using the HD Plex. It actually supports 400 watts inside of this, but with the Dell brick, we actually had issues and we can only do 300 watts. So what we have right here is Corsair's SFX SF 600 watt power supply. This is an SFX power supply. It means it's really made for small form factors. As you can see, this is nice and tiny. It feels so pretty. You like to pet it. It's like a midget power supply here. But it's going to be more than powerful enough for what we basically need to do. So we're going to be using this inside of the Dan A4 case. It's going to be awesome and nice and powerful, which means we can run lots and lots of magical stuff. Now, the other stuff that we're going to upgrade our capacity, so we're going to throw a couple of these 970 EVO, Samsung 970 EVO NVMe M.2 drives in here. There is no PCIe Gen 4, not going to bother with that. Again, nothing that I'm going to be doing with this is really going to use it. So we're going to throw two 1 terabyte 970 EVO M.2 hard drives and SSDs inside of this. These SSDs are going to do things for games, also gives us a scratch drive for rendering, and we also have that amazing game dock that the guys over at Seagate hooked us up with that we're going to be doing a review on, as well as that game drive that we can also use for basically doing scratch and video editing. So this should be very cool and nice and powerful. So there is that. Now, one of the things we couldn't do in the Skyreach Mini case, and something we can do in the Dan A4 SFX case, is actually liquid cool our CPU, which is why we're going from a 3600X to a 3800X, and we're doing it with this little bad boy. This is the Asetek Extreme 92mm AIO. They actually did actually sell this separately, the version 1 of this separately from Asetek directly, and then they kind of went out of stock, and then they never went into stock, so a lot of people who had Dan A4 cases couldn't actually cool their CPU, so they had to find like air cooling, which means you couldn't use like a full-length GPU. So in this case, they now, if you buy it like from somebody like, if you buy it from Overstockers UK, you actually can bundle a 92mm AIO from the Asetek Extreme one, which is great, meaning that you can liquid cool. Now, are we sure that this is going to cool our 3800X? Yeah, I'm fairly confident. But if we were going to throw like a 3900X, maybe a 3950X in there, I don't know, that could actually be a little bit tough. So again, we're going to test the thermals. If we can go to 3900X, that would be awesome. We might do that. One of the things that we'd like to be able to do with this as well is be able to, when we go on the go to like someplace like Computex, or when I go to like DreamHack, or we go to Newegg, we actually have a portable editing rig, so then I can cuddle with Brian and not have to travel alone, and which is a pretty critical and important part of my day-to-day needs. We're also going to be using Thermal Grizzly from Cryonaut. So really good, basically really good thermal paste. We're going to be throwing that in there, making sure that that looks really good. And they gave us this awesome thermal paste spreader, which we can also use to clean the inside of our teeth. But now make sure that you do that before applying the thermal paste, because afterwards you may have a little gray in your smile. So there we go, we got that. Anyway guys, first and foremost, before we get everything started, we're going to strip everything out of here that we're going to keep, get the motherboard put back together, and then start putting it in the Dan A4. So let us get going. We're supposed to have no screws left over. Right. That is the hope. I just took this apart, so it should be the same amount of screws when we're all done. Your PC can turn on you. You better treat it. You better treat it with respect, Brian. Okay guys, so now we've got everything out of the Skyreach Mini, and we've kind of torn it down to like its bare components in preparation for the Dan A4 SFX V4.1 case. You know, it's like V4.1, V4.2. I mean, I would like a Dan SFX version unicorn awesome. You know what I mean? I think they should just come up with better names. Like I think like V4.1, I don't know, it's just improved, maybe much improved, greater improved, the most improved. You know what I mean? I just feel like there's better, more like accurate naming components. It's very PC what they've done there. Okay, so next steps is now what we're going to do is looking at this. So here is our motherboard. I'm trying to be very careful with it, but here's our motherboard, shielded as it is. We're going to be taking off this Noctua cooler that we have from them, replacing that with the Asetek 92mm Extreme AIO. We're going to be putting in a new PSU. a new CPU, keeping the same RAM. Actually, I think this is not 3600 megahertz, so we're going to put 3600 megahertz RAM in here. Just make sure our M.2s, again, like I said, we're going to put 1 terabyte. These might actually be one. Oh, never mind. The bottom one's actually a 2 terabyte. Look at that, 2 terabytes. So we won't be taking that out and putting that back in. We'll keep that 2 terabyte bad boy in there. And just replace it with something a little bit checked. So we'll check the parts, get this kind of put back together, and then let's start putting this inside of the Dan A4 case. Now we got this ready. We got a couple things that we had to make sure we're ready because we're going to be taking this off. So we need to put the standard back plate back on. So we're going to do that. So let's get to putting this back together and getting ready to go inside of the Dan A4 case. This giant heat sink in the way, Lord God. Okay, well, you may have noticed that now the motherboard is back out of the Dan A4 case, and one thing we realized is that awesome Asetek AIO, 92mm AIO, doesn't look like it actually fits in the slot that we want when we're going to put in a full graphics card. So again, we're going to go to the Noctua NH-LN9A. This is the one that was actually originally in our other case. So low profile cooler, very, very smexy. I love it's all black. This is the first one that kind of came out with black in terms of all black fans in terms of low profile. So we're going to put this back on. Should have enough cooling to do our 3800X, which is great. Definitely not going to be doing a 3950X or a 3900X for sure now at this point in time. So we're going to install this back in here and then get it back in the case. Okay, now what we have to do, this is the weird part, is like you stick this on like this, and you turn it over. Not the most, oh God. I have like Bette Midler going on in my head for some reason. Was that as good for you as it was for me? So good, so good. Look at all that room. Look at all that room. CPU. You can get it. Yes. Done. Now, we did it. We did it, guys. Okay, there we go. All that room they have in there. Yeah, I like the 2080 Super the way it looks in here. It looks nice. It looks very nice. Very nice. Looks very nice. Very nice. It's like a flambe. There we go. Whole thing is built. So we'll do another video. Obviously we want to test what the thermals are, so we'll do a follow-up video just to kind of see how that was. For the most part, building in this case. So I had built in the Dan A4 SFX V4.1, I think is what it was. It was a couple years ago. You know, it's funny, I had the exact same issues that I had with this one, with that one as well, where I wanted to do liquid cooling, ended up having to figure out that it wouldn't actually fit, and then went to a low profile air cooler like I did in this one. And I think that was an i790 700K. So yeah, maybe it's just over a year and a half ago that we built in this. For the most part, one of the things that I had done when I built with that last case is I had taken a lot of time looking at YouTube videos, trying to figure out how to basically put it together. This one, I decided to do it just given how much I built. I decided to just do it cold. For the most part, I'd say this was actually a treat to build in. Outside of really honestly cramming everything you potentially could in with, like, and that means like putting in AIO and all that sort of stuff, we had plenty of room for things like putting in power supply cables, putting in, you know, the RTX 2080 Super fit in nicely. For the most part, it's just a sexy case. I think it's just at what, 7.5 liters in terms of the total size for this case. It might be a little bit bigger. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. We'll show that up on the screen if I am. But for the most part, the one thing I also know, thermal wise, it runs very cool. It's nice and quiet. And that's just, you know, again, just quality making. Now, for those of people who don't know, this is actually made by Lee & Lee. The case is designed and then Lee & Lee actually makes it, so that's no surprise. In terms of building in it, you do end up, just to give you guys a couple things, heads up. One, you're gonna end up having to take the whole case apart. Especially you're gonna have to take off the front, the sides. The other thing is a warning. Do not forget, this is something that happened to us. Went to go turn this on, have this big moment, and forgot to actually hit the power button on the power supply, which, remember, in this case actually has a separate cable that runs all the way through to bring it to the back here. So remember to click that on before you screw the whole thing together, get excited, and then next thing you know, you're turning it on and nothing actually works. Other thing too, I don't know as of yet many ITX cables that actually support USB 3 Gen 2 3.2 via the front panel. This motherboard, the X570i Aorus Wi-Fi, does not support 3.2 from a front panel connector. It does actually have a 3.2 in the back, so that is totally okay, but we could not take advantage of the new connection in the front. The other thing too is, remember, the other thing that this has is it has that riser cable with the PCIe Gen 4 riser cable. A couple other things, definitely around PCIe Gen 4, specifically with Mini ITX, those active coolers for the X570 chipsets, specifically in this board, caused issues with me basically trying to get the riser cable in. But basically, compared to building in the Skyreach Mini case, this is a much easier case to build in. Definitely recommend it. If you're looking for a nice portable PC to carry along with you, you can see that this is very easy to pick up. It is hefty as heck, right? I will definitely say that it is CCC thick in terms of its overall thickness, but for the most part, definitely excited to give this case and put it to full use. Anyway, guys, that is it for Robeytech. What did you guys think of the build? Would you use something like this? I definitely want to know that. Let me know in the comments below. Also, what kind of hardware would you put in there? So like I put a 3800X. Would you risk putting in a 3900 or a 3950? And then if you were going to do AIO cooling, do you know of a 92 millimeter or smaller AIO that I didn't know about that I could potentially put in that case? I would love to know that, so let me know in the comments below. Anyway, guys, while you're down there, make sure you whip that like button, slap that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. You will know when we put up a new video, and we're trying to do those every Wednesday and Friday. Also, head on over to mixer.com/Robeytech for every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. where we do our live show over on mixer.com. Also, make sure that you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Robeytech for all of those things, and then of course facebook.com/Robeytech. Anyway, guys, we're gonna go play with this thing. Make sure we get thermals. Make sure you look for the follow-up video on that later on. Also, make sure you check out our how to build video. If you're a first-time builder, you can check that out right here. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later. #BeefyCores.